No idea? Okay. Let me point out, phonetics is the study of the sounds. Phonetics is the sounds. Phone. Phone means sound. Telephone, homophone, gramophone, phonology, phonetics, euphony, cacophony, right? Symphony. Now, what do you find out? All these are nothing but indicating to sound. When you say euphony, euphony means good sound. When you say cacophony, it's called as a harsh sound, bad sound. When you say telephone, tele means far, far, far from the place you get the sound. When you say homophone, same sound. When you say symphony, it's called as a same sound, isn't it? So in that case, when you say phonology, it's called as a study of sound. When you say phonetics, it's called as a study of the sound, or you can say that study of the sounds of human speech. Human speech, right? And it focuses on what? How sounds are produced, isn't it? How sounds are produced. Now, do you see that? Imagine you are unable to speak. How you will means, uh, send your information to the others? Through symbols, through signs, gestures. But as you able to speak, you produce some sounds, right? Now, in that case, we can say we produce sounds, we transmit sounds, and we perceive sounds. Perceive means we understand also what kind of a sounds you say or you produce. So, in that case, when we say phonetics, phonetics is the study of sounds of human speech. Clear? Right? Now, let's come to the means deeper part into it. When we talk about phonetics, phonetics is divided into three main parts, right? So, or three main branches. What are they? One is called as a articulatory phonetics. Articulatory phonetics. Like, what is that articulatory phonetics? That's known as a examines. Examines how speech sounds are produced by the movement of what? Movement of what? Movement of what? Movement of what? Speech organs, right? Speech organs. So, what are the speech organs that help you to, means your speech sound produce? It helps you in your speech sound produce. We can say tongue, tongue, teeth, lip, isn't it? And vocal cords. And vocal cords. So we can say tongue, lip, and tongue, lips, and vocal cords. So obviously, teeth is also connected to it, isn't it? Now that is what called as a articulatory phonetics. Clear my point? Right. Second is called as acoustic phonetics. What is that? Acoustic. Articulatory acoustic phonetics. So, studies acoustic phonetics is what? That studies the physical properties of sound waves. Physical properties of sound waves. So, such as a frequency and amplitude. The frequency and amplitude. Amplitude, you understand that called as a rise or low, or you frequency, speed or slow, isn't it? That is known as a acoustic phonetics. Then the third one is called as a auditory phonetics. What is that? Auditory phonetics. So focuses on how listeners understand and also process speech sounds. Got the point? Auditory phonetics. Like if I say something, you listen and you understand and you try to answer it. Isn't it? So that is known as auditory phonetics. So what are the three main branches? Articulatory, auditory, acoustic. are articulatory, acoustic, and auditory phonetics. Got the point? Understood? Now, so what phonetics does? Now, phonetics helps in understanding and improving what? Pronunciation. How you pronounce one word, right? So, by analyzing the unique sounds are called as a different sounds, which is known as a phoneme of a language. Now, don't get confused by the word called as a phonetics, phonology, phoneme. So these all indicate nothing but sound, right? Understood my point? So, in this part, what did we understand? What is phonetics? It is a system of sounds and sounds of the human speech. So, there are three main branches: articulatory, acoustic, and auditory, right? So, and they help us what? Now, improve our pronunciation, analyzing the distinct sounds present in a or phoneme of a language, right? Now, second is called as accuracy in phonetics or accuracy in pronunciation. So when we talk about phonetics, we talk about pronunciation. So accuracy in pronunciation. Accuracy means called as how to get clarity or clearness in pronunciation. So accuracy in pronunciation refers to the what? Correct articulation. How you articulate, how you use your organs and produce the sounds in a proper manner. So when you use correct articulation of what? Sounds, stress, rhythm, and intonation patterns, right? So in a language, it makes sure that spoken language is a clear, understandable, and resembles or shows like what you are in a native like speech. Native speaker like the American or the Britain people speak. That's the way you speak English language, isn't it? So the main aspects of a pronunciation accuracy includes what? Now you can say that correct sound production, how you produce the correct sound, isn't it? So like saying sounds, vowels, saying sounds, so vowel sounds, isn't it? Consonant sounds. If I ask you how many sounds do you find out in English? How many sounds that you find out in English language? How many? Okay, tell me that how many letters are there in English language? 26. Out of that, can you tell me that how many are consonant letters and how many are vowel letters? How many consonant letters? How many vowel letters? Huh? Very good. So five vowels, five vowel letters, and 21 consonant letters. Absolutely. Now, when we talk about so when we talk about sounds, we can say that there are 44 sounds are there. How many? 44 sounds are there. Out of that, you would find out 24 sounds are consonants. How many consonant sounds? 24. Look into it. Sounds. 24 consonant sounds and 20 vowel sounds, right? In 20 vowel sounds also, you would find out 12 are means you can say vowels and 8 are called as a diphthongs, right? So, or you can say 12 are monophthongs and 8 are diphthongs. Mono means what? Single sound, and diphthongs means double vowels. Mono means what? Single vowels, and diphthong means double vowels. Understood my point? So, in that case, when we talk about correct sound production, so we say sounds, vowels, and consonant sounds, right? Why? Now, because they are meant in the language. They are meant in the language. So, that is what first one. When we talk about accuracy in pronunciation, we first focus on correct sound production. One is called as a vowels and consonant. Second is called as a stress patterns. Right? Stress patterns means what? Now you know each syllables. Syllables, you understand? Sounds again. Each syllables or words are emphasized. Got the point? So third is called as a intonation. Intonation means using the correct pitch and tone to convey meaning. Using the correct pitch or tone to convey meaning. So rhythm, when you say rhythm, we speak with a natural flow. We speak with natural flow that matches the language pattern. Isn't it? So in that case, we find out an inaccuracy in pronunciation. We find out four things: correct sound production, stress patterns, intonation, and fourth one is called as a rhythm. Got the point? So by combining phonetics with a pronunciation practice, so speakers can develop greater clarity and confidence while doing the communication. Right? So that is it. Then we talk about the third one. The third one is known as IPA. Now, what is that IPA? Like I said, IPA stands for International Phonetic Alphabet, right? So, International Phonetic Alphabet. So, what that International Phonetic Alphabet does? The International Phonetic Alphabet is a standardized system of what? Symbols that used to present the sounds or called as the phonemes of spoken languages, right? So it provides a consistent way to describe the pronunciation of words across all language, right? All languages, regardless of their spelling. Do you know that when we talk about phonetics and non-phonetics, we have two things: phonetics and non-phonetics. So phonetics are what? Now those of the sounds like Hindi, right? Or you talk about Spanish, but non-phonetics are English and French. English and French. So when we talk about IPA or International Phonetic Alphabet, we find out certain key features of IPA. So what do you mean by key features of IPA? That called as the main features, which are used in IPA, isn't it? So when we say that key features of IPA, we talk about symbols of sounds, like each symbol represents what? A specific sound. Each symbol represents what? A specific sound. Now, what do you mean by symbol? Right. Now, you say that, for example, pa is a symbol, P, pa. So, you also say pa, ba, ta, da, ka, ga, cha, ja, ta, da, sa, sha, right? Ya, ha, la, ra, la, right? All these are nothing but called as a consonant sounds, right? So, and they produce the sound, isn't it? Pa for pen, ba for bat, sa for shake, sha for shake. In that case, each symbol represents a specific sound, right? So, second is called as a means universal representation. Universal representation means what? When we say International Phonetic Alphabet, it means it can be used to transcribe any language. It can transcribe to any language. Transcribe means what? Change any language, making it useful for linguistic. Linguistic means that called as a person who knows language of science. So language learners and speech therapists. So linguistics, language science, language learners, and the third one is called as a speech therapist, right? So that is called as a universal representation. Third is called as a categories of sounds. When we say that categories of sounds, we find out that there are three different categories. One is called as a consonants. Second one is called as a vowels, and the third one is called as a diacritics. Now, what is consonant? We know that consonant sounds produced with some obstruction of flow, like pa, ta, ka, pa, right? Pa, ta, ka, pa. So that is called as the sounds produced with some obstruction of airflow. Vowels, that sounds produced with an open vocal tract. Open vocal tract. So you can say that E, right? Like we say no C S double E. So we also say E, right? Ship. So we also say that ah, that's a long sound, ah sound, and also we say oo, right? E ah oo. So those are nothing but called as a vowel sounds. Yes. So then the third one is called as a diacritics. Now, what is diacritics? Like what in English we call punctuation marks, right? But in the linguistic, we call diacritics are nothing but the marks. And what these marks do? These marks added to symbols. These marks added to symbols to show the changes in pronunciation. Like we say P, but if we write P after above it, we use a H. We can say pa, 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 pa. So in that case, we find out means the changes in pronunciation, such as when you say nasalization. What do you mean by nasalization? Sounds that produce through nose. No, no, right? So that's called as a, we say no sing, right? Nasalization, a tone, right? So you can say that what sans, sans. So for a nasalized vowel, then you can find out the next one. It's called as a supra segments. Now, what is that suprasegmental? Now, it represents features like stress, intonation, and length. Example, when you say cat, cat. So C-A-T, cat, isn't it? So the primary stress on the first syllable in cat. So you put a kind of a stick on above the word called as a C. So cat. So now the idea stated what is the benefits of IPA. Remember that when we talk about benefits of IPA, we learn pronunciation. We learn pronunciation. It helps language learners pronounce words accurately by showing nothing but the exact sounds. Second is called as the dictionaries. So if you go to the dictionary, you would find out dictionaries include IPS symbols to show pronunciation. To show pronunciation. Did you ever go to the dictionary? You would find out the word is given, and under that the phonetic symbol is used. Right? So third is called as the linguistic studies. So IPA International Phonetic Alphabet is essential for studying and comparing languages, isn't it? Now, if I have the marker, no, I would show you. But at the same time, when we talk about cat, right, how the symbol would be K A E T, right? Cat. Or if you talk about thought, if you talk about school, if you talk about genre. So you can say that IPA is a powerful tool for mastering pronunciation and also understanding the sound and language. Isn't it? So that's what is all about IPA. Now, the next one is called as the stress and intonation. If I talk about stress and intonation, both stress and intonation are essential. Essential on what? Essential aspects of spoken language that affect how meaning is expressed. Right. So even if the word themselves remain the same, right? Like let's talk about the word called as a shame, S-H-A-M-E, and you say S-A-M-E, same. Shame, same, right or not? So you say that what means through THOROUGH, and you also say that THROUGH. You also say THOUGH, though, through, throw, right or not? So in that THROWTH also, right? Throw. So in that case, you would find out they produce the same kind of a sound, but they are not remain the same, isn't it? So in that case, we'll start with the stress. So stress is what? Now stress refers to the emphasis placed on certain syllables. Stress emphasize placed on certain syllables or words in a sentence. Like you can say stressed syllables. We call them stressed syllables are louder. Stressed syllables are louder. Stressed syllables are longer. And stressed syllables are pronounced with a higher pitch, right, compared to unstressed ones. Now what you find out, you find out two things. One is called as a stressed and the other one is called as a unstressed, right? Stressed syllables are louder, stressed syllables are longer, stressed syllables are pronounced with a higher pitch, right or not? Stress helps express meaning with and structure in spoken language, right? So how many types of stress we have? We have, you can say that two types, right, or more than that. Let's say that if we talk about word stress, when we say that word stress, certain syllables within words are stressed. For example, you say in a noun, 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 we say record, right? We say record, 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 isn't it? In that you first stress on record, right or not? But when you say that verb, you record, isn't it? So in that case, you stress on where? Means are, and you stress on ka in noun and verb, isn't it? So that is nothing but called as a word stress. Second one is called as a sentence stress. When we talk about sentence stress, in a sentence, we talk about content words. Content words. What are the content words? Nouns, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs. These are nothing but called as a content words. And these are usually stressed, right? While function words, what do you mean by function words? That called as an article, preposition, auxiliary verbs. These are known as a function words, and they are often unstressed. Got the point? What are the stressed and what are the unstressed? You can say that words which are called as a content words like noun, adjective, adverb, and verb are called as a stressed, and article, preposition, auxiliary verbs, these are often unstressed, right? So that is what. Then you find out called as a functions of stress. What stress? Sentence stress. Then we talk about function of stress, right? So when we say that function of stress, we say distinguishes meaning. Distinguishes meaning means different meaning. Like what stress can change the meaning of a word? What stress can change the meaning of a word? Like present as a noun, present as a verb, right? So you can say that what he present a book, right? So you can say that he is present or he is present. He is present, right or not? So in that case, you would find out one is a noun, one is adjective, one is a verb, and different meaning. Present as a what? When somebody present, right? So he present is known as a nothing but a showing, right? So in that case, if I talk about the word has a distinguishes meaning. Second is called as a emphasis, right? Like stressing certain words in a sentence helps to what? Emphasize them or signal importance. For example, you can say that emphasize, stressing certain words. Let's say that I did not say she stole the money. I did not say she stole the money. Right. In that case, your stress on what? Did not she. Right. So changing the stress changes the meaning of the sentence also. So therefore, stress is very important. Then you talk about intonation. When we say that intonation, we understand that intonation refers to the rise and fall of the pitch in spoken English or spoken language. It is how the voice, modulates while speaking, and it can convey emotion, it can question, it can emphasize, and other nuances of meanings. Right? Let's say that how many types of intonations are there? So you would find out there are different types of intonation. Like you can say rising intonation, you can say falling intonation, you can also say rising, falling intonation, right? So let's say that if I talk about rising intonation, what is that? Now, in rising intonation, the pitches rises, the pitch rises at the end of a sentence. The pitch rises at the end of a sentence. Like this is common in yes or no question or when seeking confirmation. Let's say that if I say, then so that called as a rises. Are you coming? Are you coming? Isn't it? So rising. So pitch rises at what? Coming, isn't it? So falling intonation, the pitch falls at the end of a sentence, and this is often used in the statements. So rising when you put a yes or no question. So falling when you are making a statement. Like you can say that she is coming. She is coming. So in that case, speech falls at coming, isn't it? So rising, falling intonation. When you say rising, falling intonation, so in that case, the pitch rises and then falls. So often used for what? More complex questions or statements. Let's say that means what time is the meeting? What time is the meeting? So pitch rises when you say that to what and falls on meeting, isn't it? So that's what you would find out. Next is called as a functions of intonation. So when you talk about functions of intonation, we express emotions, right? Intonation can show if a speaker is excited or if the speaker is angry and the speaker is confused or happy, right? So let's say that if you say example, really, right? So with the rising intonation can express surprise, really, right? So while falling intonation can express disbelief or disappointment, really, right? Really, isn't it? That's something called as a falling. So that indicates expressing emotions. So similar to that, when you talk about functions of intonation, we talk about indicating types of sentences. So it helps identify whether the sentence is a statement, question, or command. Right? Like rising intonation often signals a question. Right. So while falling intonation signals a statement, right? So, and the next one is called as a clarifying meaning. So, intonation generally helps listeners differentiate between what different meaning of the same words or same phrases based on the context. So what we can find out here that when we talk about intonation, we find out types of intonation like rising, falling intonation. Then function of intonation, we can talk about expressing into emotions, indicating types of sentences, and clarify meaning, isn't it? So that's what is nothing but the stress and intonation, right? So finally, when we talk about stress and intonation, stress involves what? Emphasizing syllables or words. Syllables mean sounds or words to give meaning and structure to speech. And intonation that involves what? In variation in pitch. So affecting the emotional tone, types of sentence, and clarity of meaning. So together, stress and intonation give rhythm, emphasize, and clarity to spoken language, right? And making communication more effective and expressive, right? Morphology. Now, what do you mean by morphology? The first question comes, what is morphology? Morph. It's called as a body. Logi, it's called as a, mor means called as a body. Like we say, no, mortuary, morgue, right? So metamorphosis. So morph means body, and morphology means study of, you can say that, body. But at the same time, if you talk about in a language and linguistics, what do we find out? Morphology is a branch of linguistics. Morphology is a branch, one of the branches, you can say. So it is a branch of linguistics that studies the structure, body the structure, right? So that studies the structure and formation of words, structure and formation of words, and it examines what? It examines how words are created using with what? Smaller meaningful units. Smaller meaningful units, which is known as or which is called what? Morphemes, right? And how these units interact to form new words. That is known as a morphology. Understood? Now, the next is called as the key concept in morphology. If you talk about that, morpheme. Now, a morpheme is nothing but the smallest unit of meaning. Smallest unit of meaning in a language, and morphemes can be classified into two main types. Now, did you understand what is morpheme? Morpheme is nothing but the smallest unit of meaning in a language. So one is called as a free morphemes, and the other one is called as a bound morpheme. Now, what is free morpheme? Now, if you talk about that free morphemes, these can stand alone. Free morphemes can stand alone. So, as words and still have meaning. Let's say that if you talk about book, or you talk about run, or if you talk about apple, isn't it? These are nothing but the examples of what? Means of free morphemes. But when you talk about bound morphemes, these cannot exist independently. So, and they must attach to other morphemes to express meaning, isn't it? Let's say that if I talk about the word called as ing or in or un or ed, so they are called as a bound morphemes. Why they are called as a bound morphemes? Because they cannot exist independently. So if you talk about ing, we can say running, watching, seeing, or telling, or means working, isn't it? You find out all these ing words are connected with the other words to present the meaning. Similar to that, the word called as unhappy, unrestricted, unidentified, or you use the word un with the other words to present the meaning. Like that, ed, you can say played, or you talk about washed, isn't it? Or you talk about any of the word where ed is used. So, like that, you also find out re, re. So, prefixes and suffixes, they generally known as a bound morpheme. Prefixes and suffixes. Do you understand prefixes and suffixes? What is prefix and suffix? Prefix is called as a beginning of the word, that usage. Suffix is called as a after the word. If you talk about un, in, this, miss, these are called as a prefix. And if you talk about ity, atv, or you talk about isf, these are called as a suffix. These prefixes and suffixes are known as the bound morphemes. And pre-morphemes, all these nouns, book, run, apple, isn't it? These are called as a pre-morphemes. Now, so we understood about the bound morphemes and pre-morphemes. Now we will discuss about or discuss means how many types of morphemes are there, because we understood what means what is morpheme and what are the main types of morphemes, bound morphemes and free morphemes. Next is called as the types of morphemes. Now, if you talk about types of morphemes, we can say one is called as a root morphemes. What do you mean by root morpheme? Root means what? That called as the base of the means tree or the base of the word. The base of the tree or the base of the word. So that is known as a root morpheme. And this root morpheme is considered as the base or core part of a word, which carries the primary meaning. Like you can say play in playful or replay. So you can use the word play, playful, replay, or playing. This is something. But the root is what? Root is called as a play. You can say play, plays, played, playing, replay, or playful. Isn't it? How many words you can form using with the root? So second is called as affixes. When you talk about affixes or affixation. So affixation are what? That called as a bound morpheme. Now what bound morphemes are? Like we understood prefixes, suffixes, and you can talk about infixes. So prefixes are nothing but called as added at the beginning of a word, like on, in, undo, re, right? So in that case, these are nothing but called as a prefixes. Suffixes like ing or happiness, ness or s only, right? So those are nothing but a suffixes. But what is that infixes? Now, when you talk about infixes are the words that inserted within a word. Infixes are the words that means included or inserted within a word. Like you find out rare in English, but common in language like Tagalog. Example, if you talk about Tagalog, Sulat, S-U-L-A-T, which means right. S-U-L-A-T, Sulat. Sulat means right. But you also find out Sumular, which means road, right? Road written, right? So, but if you talk about in some other language, you find out Tagalog, right? So, in Tagalog language, you find out Sulat is the word, Sumulat is the another. So, what do you find out? You find out means how S-U-L-A-T in between you insert what? Insert the influx or infix. What is that? That called as a M-U, right? M-U-L, Sumula, S-U-L-A-T becomes S-U-M-U-L-A-T, isn't it? So MU is nothing but inserted in the word, isn't it? So that's why so what we understand in the morphology, we find out morphemes and morphemes in which we find out free morphemes, bound morphemes, and in free morphemes we understood bound morphemes we use affixation. So one is called as a prefix, or second is called as a suffix, and the third one is called as a infix. Right? Now, next it's called as a word formation process. When we talk about word formation process, we understood that morphology explains how words are created, modified through various processes. What are they? Now, one is called as a deviation, right? How words are created and modified. That called as a one example is called as a deviation. Now, what is deviation? Now, adding affixes to a root word to create a new word with different meaning. Like we understood, happy becomes a happiness, right? Adding ness. So, second is called as inflection. Inflection is called as how a word modify to express grammatical information like tenses and number or case without changing its core meaning. Let's say that walk. Walk is a plural. W-L-K-S. Walks. It's a singular. Isn't it? Walk is a plural. Walks is a singular. Walk. Walked is a past tense. Right? So cat become cats, which is a singular, which is a plural. Isn't it? Now in that case, you find out it is known as an inflection. Right? Then the third one is called as a compounding. What is compounding? Last class I told you. Compounding means called as when two words are associated or together. That is known as a compounding, which means combining two words, combining two or more free morphemes to form a new one. Let's say that tooth, brush, right? Toothbrush, notebook, chairman, showman, gatekeeper, isn't it? Now, in that case, these are known as a compounding. Now, fourth one is called as a conversion. What is conversion? That is known as a zero derivation. Like changing a word's grammatical category without adding affixes. Like we say run, ran, run. Isn't it? Put, put. So what you find out? Derivation, inflection, compounding, conversion. These are the different types of ways through which what we can find out, we can modify or we can create new words, and which is known as a nothing but a morphology explains that, and it is called as a word formation process. Then the next one is called as a beside word formation process. We also talk about functions of morphology. When we talk about functions of morphology, we find out that word formation, grammatical relation, language variation, these are the three different functions that you find out in a morphology. Word formation, we understand how words are created and modified and how their meaning changes. Second, it's called as a grammatical relations. Like we explain how different forms of words indicate relationship in sentences, like past tense or plurals. Then third is called as a language variation. When we talk about language variation, we understand that morphology shows how different languages use morphology differently to express their meaning. Isn't it? Let's see that some of the examples of morphological analysis. The first one is called as unhappiness, right? We find out un is a prefix, happy is the root, and ness is the suffix. And what do you mean by unhappiness? Now, the state of not being happy. The state of not being happy. Similar to that, books. Books means book is the root, which is a singular, but when you use S with it, we understand books is a plural. It indicates more than books. One book. So rewriting, re, prefix, write, root, and ing is suffix. Rewriting, which means the process of writing anything again. Isn't it? That is known as a example of morphological analysis. So when we talk about morphology, it plays a crucial or an important role in understanding how words are created, modified, structured, and how meaning is conveyed or expressed in language. By analyzing morphemes and their combinations, we get the benefit into word formation, grammar relationship, and linguistic diversity. Isn't it? Now,